UFC Fight Night Andrade versus Blanchfield has just finished taking place at the UFC Apex, and I'm going to be given my immediate reaction to the entire card. As is the format now, I'll be starting with the prelims in a video first, and then following up immediately with the main card breakdown. Now, before I get into this, quick housekeeping message. The views have been steadily increasing, and I'm really grateful to those stopping by to hear me waffle. According to the metrics though, over 15% of you watching are not subscribed. So if you like what you hear and you want to carry on listening to me waffle, or you don't and you just want to hurl abuse my way and tell me I'm wrong on demand, kindly subscribe to the channel. It really does mean a lot. Also, I hope you enjoyed a new layer on this one. I did start my prediction videos last week by calling this card an abomination, and it wasn't. We'll get to it. Okay, fight one started out with Randeros shouting out 50 G's over here, and that kind of got a chuckle out of me to start things off. To be fair to him, he did start really well. He avoided a few head kicks, got up close, managed to take Carpenter down, and looked really busy on top. At first, Carpenter didn't really look like he was able to position himself back up, but he stayed really patient, and that really impressed me. You can really see when a fighter is starting to shit themselves, and I didn't see a glimpse of that here, despite a clear alteration to the game plan, or what must have been. Now, the round turned drastically when Carpenter almost locked in a triangle choke on the ground, and this forced a kind of a scramble, which got the fight back to the feet. Now, after a weird exchange, Carpenter managed to find the back, seemingly with no effort at all. Now, Randeros kind of did his best to kind of keep busy, and despite having his back taken, he was trying to land shots. But in this, he made a really fundamental mistake that you really can't make at this level. He chose to start like throwing 9-12 elbows down to the thigh, rather than defend his arms, working around his neck, which was a very, very silly thing to do. Carpenter then found the choke, and Randeros was forced to tap. I kind of feel bad for the guy, because he's come back from a lot of injuries, but you can't make mistakes like that at this level. My 2-year-old son has the sense to protect his neck when we play fight. Come on, bro. Nice start though. Carpenter got this by rear naked choke, and I was off to a solid 1-0 start. Let's go. This was a lot better than UFC 33, by the way. Alright, I was a little nervous about this next one because Gorimbo was a little bit unknown to me, and the tape I could find didn't exactly blow my balls off. On the other side, AJ was coming off 2 decision losses, and his 9, not 10-inch reach advantage, as Laura Sanko was proclaiming on commentary, was something that I really considered as a potential problem coming into this. So Temba started really well, softening up with leg kicks, and he got a really nicely well-timed takedown, which really took me by surprise. And it looked like it took by AJ by surprise too, as Gorimbo immediately managed to take the back off this. AJ stayed patient, did really well to fight the hands, and worked well to get back up to his knees and out of position. Now AJ basically dominated the round from that point as soon as he took it to the floor. And the flaws I saw in Gorimbo's game, watching a lot of the tape on him, really came to the front here. He has really no ground game. Now it managed to get worked to full mount, which was really easy for AJ. He just stepped right over, and he got some really nasty elbows in, and Gorimbo had to work really hard to try and get out with little success, and this really seemed to tire him out. So this was a clear AJ round, and Tembo went back to the stool looking puffed out already, which was a really bad sign. Now, going into the second, AJ started with a really nice leg kick, and Tembo immediately shot, so I knew something was wrong. AJ kept composed on the ground, looked for his moment, and when it presented himself, he reversed position, snatched the neck, locked in the guillotine choke. Ref actually missed the first tap, and this sent my popcorn like flying across the room. But, fortunately, AJ managed to readjust, and this time the ref managed to see the tap. It was a nice win, but a really poor showing from Gorimbo. You can't come in there with the advantages that you've got and play the other guy's game. That's just a stupid thing to do. So 2-0, and the train was leaving the station as far as I was concerned. Pretty good start to this card. Decent scraps to get things off. Wasn't complaining. So far, so good. Alright, a couple more well-known guys on the card in this one. Linz, to his credit, looked really shredded coming down and dropping 40 pounds. So it was clear to me that he was taking this shit seriously. I thought this was a really smart move, as he was very, very undersized at heavyweight. Now, OSP is obviously a veteran OG in the game, so let's see how this went. Okay, this was quick. OSP went to the leg early and was clearly planning on playing a long-distance popping game, which is exactly what I thought he'd do. He did not get a chance to do that. Linz cracked him, and it was the beginning of the end. He blitzed forward, kept the pressure on hard, backed OSP up to the cage, and we've seen what happens to OSP when he's in these positions. One mighty right hand and just timber. Down went OSP. Devastating KO. Pretty much face planted. And a really great win for Linz. So this took me to 3-0. And a really nice start, boys. Again, nice card so far. Pretty exciting fights. I almost felt bad at this point for shitting on it so much this week. Almost. Okay, so this is where things kind of took a downturn for me. Despite how much I dissed this card during the build-up, I was actually quite excited for this one. Now, Askabov was the so-called talented Russian, you can hear my tone already, the so-called talented Russian prospect. And he was supposed to be in the UFC 2 years ago, and for one reason or another, it kept getting pushed back. I might have suspicions as to why now, but I'll get into that in a minute. He had added to his record since then, so he moved to 23-0. Now, Jamal Emmers has been in there with some of the best and represents one hell of a dangerous debut. I also had the feeling at this point, being 3-0, that all was going too well, and I was waiting for the crash to come. By the way, Emmers is coming off a pretty bad injury, and this kind of added to my reasoning for this pick. I thought undefeated prospect, mauling guys, Emmers coming off the injury, this is a no-brainer to me. So let's get into how this went. Now, this was the first fight of the night to go the distance, and I'm going to just say this off the bat. What a disappointment this was. This really sucked out any enthusiasm I had built up. Now, I labeled Askabov as a tomato can killer, and this turned out to be bang on. He is dreadful. He shot poorly even when his gas tank was full, and his stand-up was wild and just lacking. As the fight played out, it turned out he had no gas tank whatsoever. He almost had this look on his face like he was surprised that he was getting resistance. And that probably comes from a career of just beating up like nobodies and, people who don't belong in there. He's going to amount to nothing in this division, and he might even be lucky to get another chance. He did get a 4-fight deal though, so chances are they might strike it up to a bad night at the office and give him another shot. I'm going to give full credit to Emmers as well though. He looked very good in there. He kept the distance well, stuffed every takedown. Don't get me, the takedowns of Askabov were, I think I mentioned it at the beginning, horrible. The way he shoots in, this guy has no skill whatsoever. And to be fair to Emmers, he rallied up the significant strikes. I did think, despite what I'm saying, the first 2 rounds were, relatively close. But I had Emmers winning all 3 rounds. And with the third obviously being really dominant. And it was called that unanimously. 30-27. Absolutely the right call. And yeah, Askabov needs to go back to the drawing board. Take another 2 years off. I don't know what. He sucks. He's rubbish. His record is an absolute joke. he just needs to go away now. Anyway, 3-1 now, and on to the first female fight of the card. Hooray! Now, as I said at the beginning, when I did my prediction video, this was the biggest layup for me, or so I thought, of the card coming next. Now, starting things off, Silva started off by kind of resting in the corner, like she didn't give a damn about being there. Lansberg is pretty old and usually makes a fight horrible and ugly, and I was concerned that this was going to happen in this one, and it pretty much did to some extent. So let's break down how this went. This fight felt like it was happening underwater. A lot of the fight took place in a clinch. Silva won the first round pretty clearly. She pushed her up against the fence, and I was just struggling to stay awake. These are top 15 bantamweights. Anyway, fortunately, the second round perked up a little bit initially, and they did try scrapping it out a little while. Silva then did a really nice like judo hip toss, dashing her ass to the ground, and had a great deal of time control there. I made this call last week, by the way, and I'm going to extend it. If you're like a thick woman and you fancy making a little bit of money, UFC bantamweight. Just like I said about men's heavyweight last week, just in you go. You can start a new career tomorrow. Anyway, they laid around on the ground for 4 minutes. They had a really nice cuddle. Silva threatened the back a little, I guess. At this moment, though, my son ran into the room to tell me he needed to pee, and I was so relieved. And by the time I came back, the fight was mercifully over. I managed to watch the replay, and it was actually a pretty nice knee bar submission that happened at the end of the round. This isn't a picture of it. I obviously missed it. And this was the shot I got of what the fight basically represented. Now, Silva called for a title shot, and she's terrible, so she'll probably give it to her. Wait, she then called for... Wait, yeah, she called for the title shot. Then she called for Pena. Then she said she wanted Pennington. It was all very, very muddled. There was a lot of talk about respect. I deserve respect. We all deserve respect. I didn't really understand what she was saying. I would say this sucked all the energy out the room, but to be honest, I'm giving all that credit to Askabov. I feel a little bit dirty for taking the win here because this really did feel like a layup. But she was really dominant, and, you know, there's no guarantees in MMA. So, yeah, Silva by knee bar. And this took me to 4-1. So, again, we move on. Okay, all right, I'm hyped again. Sadykov versus Elder was the fight that saw out the prelims. And going into this, I really liked the look of Sadykov. He's a really good striker, and Elder has a lot of heart. He was coming down from, I think they were fighting at, was it light? I think they were fighting at, yeah, they were fighting at lightweight, and Elder was coming down from welterweight. I don't think he's a natural there, but he fought there on his debut. And as it scanned through the crowd, actually, I remember I saw Marab in the crowd, and even that didn't manage to dampen my spirits. I was pretty excited about this. Now, it was nice, first of all, to see a fight back on land after the last one. A very energetic first round. Both men were exchanging in the pockets. There was no real feeling out process. They both just started going for it. And they both did say they would going into this. I mean, you know, you hear that a lot, but they really did go for it. Sadykov had the better part of the start of the round, and he seemed to be finding his range taken over a little bit. He wobbled Elder with a left at some point. Then Elder went for a takedown, which got stuffed. And as he pushed away, he caught Sadykov out of nowhere with a really nice shot, which dropped him. It was a nice recovery, and both men traded. To be fair, the knockdown seemed to piss Sadykov off more than anything else, and they started exchanging at that point. A round went to Elder for the knockdown, but it was a hard one to score. If you gave the round to Sadykov, I wouldn't be that surprised. I think, yeah, the knockdown for me gave it to Elder, but it was a really close round. Now, Sadykov going into round 2, he seemed to be a little bit more accomplished on the feet, and as I was watching carefully, I could see that even though they were exchanging, Sadykov seemed to be blocking a lot more of the shots, which is very hard to see because they were both pretty quick. Then Elder timed the takedown well, and Sadykov was demonstrating really good ability to scramble takedowns, back up, and this was quite impressive against the guy that was fighting at welterweight just a fight ago. Most significant strike then came from Sadykov at the 4-minute mark in the second, and he did a little damage to Elder's eye, which would prove to be significant later. Now, I edged Sadykov in this round, but what a close fight this was. Again, if anyone was giving 2-0 to Elder, I wouldn't have complained. Definitely fight of the night so far, just on this basis. Now, the third round began with Sadykov stuffing a few takedowns, and then he hit a really nice knee to the stomach, and then to the face. And I thought he'd hit a low blow, because the fight suddenly got stopped, and I was thinking, shit, like, has he kneed him in the bollocks? No, the referee then called in a doctor to take a look at Elder's eye, and it literally looked like his eyebrow was hanging off his face. So, no choice. The doctor had to call it off, pretty much had to, and yeah, this was the right call. So, Sadykov got the nod by doctor stoppage. It was a really great scrap and a really nice showing by both men. This took me to 5-1, so I'm feeling pretty good at this point. And a really nice launch pad of a fight to launch into the main cards. Join me after this for the main card, and remember to like and subscribe. It really does make a difference. By the way, hearing Sanko gush about everyone deserving a bonus so far on the card was just so cringe. Shut up. Alright, anyway, I'll see you in a bit for the main card. Take it easy.